Hello, legends and super legends. Elder and Paul here. We're rolling.
Yeah.
We're in Paul's truck, and we're going to a Gran Fondo. We thought we'd surprise you guys this morning. We're going to a Gran Fondo. This time of year in our part of the world, the weather is great for doing a lot of riding. So this is when we have, you know, the best time to put the miles in instead of dealing with that heat in the summer. So we're headed that way, and we're taking you guys with us. I hope you get a chance to get out there. Okay, let's go ahead. All right, legends, we get on the highway, and immediately we spot that's a cyclist vehicle ahead, 2 bikes on the back, just like ours, and obviously heading to the right. They live in our area as well. We go this way, go long widescreen. I like to do widescreen. Film. You know, so Paul's piloting, and so we're just gonna follow this guy. Not that we need to, you know, we know where the place is. But we're all just gonna cruise. I mean, you don't have to follow him. It's up to you. Find a good place to park that way. All right, guys, we just got here. We're at Livingston High School. It's about 75 miles from Houston, about 100 and I think it's 119 kilometers, maybe. I don't know if my conversion is right, but see if you can find an end spot. We don't need to be right up next to these guys.
Yeah,
find a place where you have enough space around your truck.
I'm gonna just look around and then decide.
So we just got here. We're trying to find parking. You'd be better off on the inside of the lot. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to park up here next to the event, because if they have that way, they will drive there to pick up their numbers. So don't waste your time here. Let's go down and find a space. Unless you want to park right here.
Yeah, well, that's convenient.
It's available. Take it. That's the joy of coming early. Line it up. You want to check to see if we got enough room behind you?
Yeah.
Careful, man.
I always gonna fold that.
You fold that. That's why you fold it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take this out, and I'm gonna leave this. It's plugged in.
Okay.
Was it ever plugged in? I don't think we plugged it in. I guess I forgot to plug it in. Just throw it in here.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go get our numbers.
Yeah, once I fold it,
It'll be good. Yeah, you good. Okay, that's a good spot. Come on. It says register here. I think this is us. That's on site. Where's the online registration? Maybe over there? That's this lady. No, I'm curious. Where's the online people? Where do we pick up our packets?
Pre-register.
Yeah.
Right here.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
If I register online,
Well, it says register. Okay. Wait a minute, guys. She said pre-register. Did you pre-register? Okay, this is the line, but the sign doesn't say.
Hold on, this one's got to be signed also. Hang on to your wristband, because that's how you get fed after the ride. And the number written on there is to the SAG if you have any problems during the ride, okay?
All right. Thank you.
And here's maps and here's pins.
Okay. Your name?
What's the last name? Thank you. What's the first name?
Eldred, E-L-D-R-E-D. Yeah, that's me. Hey, ladies. You're on camera.
Hang on to your wristband. That's how you get fed after the ride for your meal. And then the number written on there is to the SAG in case you have any problems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You know what? I want to find out where the restrooms are. We can toss this. Oh, they got a t-shirt in there. Cool. All right, guys. We got a packet here. Let's film this for the guys.
Yeah. Put it up here.
Yeah, let's see what's in this packet. Yeah, why don't you hold this and let me show what, you know, you got to look through there, man, because I got it the regular way. It's not a selfie, so yeah. Show the guys a t-shirt.
Okay.
Oh, that's nice. Extra large. I think my wife's going to love this.
Yeah.
Look at the back.
Nice.
Spirit Ride. Oh, they got all kinds of goodies in here too. Let's see. I like free stuff. I don't know what this is. Some kind of gel. It says, it doesn't say what it is. Huh. Wow. Let's see here. Oh, it's a cold pack. Cool. I think MJ would like that. Advil. Coolies, what do you call them? Coolies. For your drinks. Spirit Ride.
Be careful with your hands, man.
Oh yeah. And you got pins and I don't know what these are. It's stuff they're selling. A pad to ride on. Industrial equipment, the local business.
It looks like you have a biofreeze.
Where? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Biofreeze. Yeah, I got a big one at home. Cool. Little goodies. Definitely can use Biofreeze. Advil. There was a guy on the channel that said he packs Advil or some kind of pain thing with him. I'm sure there was a reason. So hey, that's cool. I'm gonna toss these back in there. Go find the facilities and get ready. Just slightly nippy. It's not that bad this morning. Yeah. What are you opening?
All right.
I'm gonna toss this in the truck. Now we're filming.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one
Hold this.
And we bow our heads, please. The most gracious Heavenly Father, we want to thank you today for the gifts that each of us have and providing blessings upon each one of us. We want to make sure these riders know that we are thinking of you, praying for you, and making sure that God's wings of safety is going to be with you today. Volunteers, we thank you for helping put this on so that we can do a better job of stopping crime within our community. And veterans, we appreciate everything you do. The sacrifices you've made for us. Allow us as individuals to live in the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. And we want to ask all these things in the protection of the riders again. In thy son's name, amen.
So after the prayer and the pledge of allegiance, he's done. I'm speeding this up over here and we're getting ready to roll out.
Your bike. Is everyone ready? Mark, set, go!
Actually, that band was very cool. While we're getting dressed, they were playing some really good songs, and I really enjoyed them. They were kind of cool, old school music. When music was music.
It's just like it's just nimble.
Now the race is on and here comes the backstretch. Heartaches are going to the inside. My tears are holding back. Trying not to fall.
So we end up at the back of the group because we wanted to be in the back at the announcement so we could give you guys a good view. So there's a bunch of riders already up the road, you know, so we're navigating here through the guys that are probably doing the, I think they have like
stick just messes with us from time to time to make sure.
Yeah, they have a 25-mile rider
because
and a 35, a 44, and a 67. We're doing the 67. So I'm speeding it up here as we try to navigate through the riders who are going slower in the shorter route. The cool thing about this group ride, it costs us $35 US to participate in this event, and every corner was marshaled, so we really never had to worry about intersections. They also marked the roads. They put the different colors, the green, yellow, blue, and red. We were the red route to denote the different categories of participants. The green was 25, the yellow 35, blue 44, and the red was 67. So up here, I see this guy and his son riding. I didn't want to go in the middle, even though there was enough room, since he's a kid. So I slowed down, I moved to the left. All we're trying to do is get through from the back. So when you start at the back, you're dealing with different levels of riders, and you know, this guy's wearing jeans on his bike, you know, so you're dealing with different skill levels, so you have to accommodate that. And so as I go by him, I ask him, I tell him to hold his position.
Stay where you are. You're right.
So he was looking around, so I just told him, stay where you are, I'm on your right, and I went by. And that's what we have to do, you know. Not everybody needs to be a die-hard to come out and ride their bikes, but you need to be able to coexist with the riders that are not at your level. You can see the arrows there, they're pointing right, so we turn right here. And there's a shoulder here, and since we're at the back and everybody's kind of moving slowly, I know there are riders minutes up ahead already, but I figure we'll ride hard enough and catch up to those that we can, and then form a group along the way. So right here, the shoulder is kind of smooth, but the riders were behind are riding pretty slowly. So I stay here for a bit. I'm looking back to see when the traffic clears to use the actual main lane and get out of here, because we're not going to make any progress on this shoulder. So even though there's room here, I still am extra cautious and just wait for more room. So we jump on the pavement here because it's kind of crowded on the shoulder. Shoulder's nice and wide, but we're trying to get around people, so we get back. And at this point, I begin to realize that the shoulder may not be the best spot to be in, so we can kind of make some progress. And we plan to start this ride at a reasonable tempo, get nice and warmed up, and then kick it up a notch, maybe at the 15-minute mark. For some reason, I couldn't get the timer to work, so we're about 4 minutes into the ride here. There's a time clock at the top of the overlay. The ride started right around 9:03. So it's early in the ride, so we're just kind of getting around riders here. At this point, we're on the main lane, and I realized that this is the ticket because we got to make up some time. We want to roll a lot faster than this because we warm up around on a flat road like this, 27K thereabouts. And so I moved back onto the main lane, and you can see here the shoulder gets kind of crappy. Not only is it crowded,
the pavement is terrible. They're like just really rough asphalt, almost like they didn't really try to pave it. So we just, at this point, we just stayed on the road here. It wasn't busy anyway, and we have to deal with pavement like this at the end of the ride, and I will show you guys then. But this is just a neglected shoulder. So we start to move up here. We're going into the wind. We're headed east, southeast, and the wind is coming from the east, and it ends up swirling around mostly during this ride. It was all over the place today. It's a blustery day. It's very nice and mild. And when we have days like these where you've got a front nearby and then the Gulf trying to take control.
For some reason, I'm hungry.
So right here, I grabbed my granola bar because I'm hungry for some reason. I just got a hunger pain. I decided to eat. So even though I've been eating regularly at home, when we started this ride, I needed to eat. So I start eating right away. I told Paul to be careful here because this guy is on the side in that car. We're going the same direction. So I'm basically eating my granola bar. The road's opened up a little bit. There are riders up ahead. You end up passing a bunch of people, and you'll see that. Paul wore those orange socks last week, and we had gotten them together, and I really like how it looks. It works with the kit, so it looks good on screen. We're settling into the pace. We taped our numbers, but mine, the top, I did 2 lines of tape, and the top stuck better than the middle. So when the wind would pick up, it flapped a little bit, but nothing significant. I really like the size of those numbers. They're not as big as some of the other Grand Fondos. So that was good. You hear that wind? We're going south into the teeth of the wind from the Gulf. And it didn't stay south. It was southeasterly. It was swirling around from the north. I'm throwing out the crumbs and putting that under my jersey to discard at the rest stop. Settling into some kind of a rhythm here. At this time in the ride, the highway you see on the left is called Interstate 59. It's a main highway going north and south from Houston all the way through Cleveland, the area of Cleveland, go into Nacogdoches, go all the way to Pittsburgh, Texas, Lufkin, all of that. It's a major highway. And on the south, it goes all the way to Mexico. So there's a main highway. We're just on the service road here. And it's nicely paved. I love these kind of roads. Just smooth. And so even though we're going into the wind and it's just maybe 9 minutes into the ride, we've got a good clip of speed going here, and we're passing all the people that were up the road. It's one of these mornings where it started out kind of cold and then it warmed up fairly quickly. You can see I'm only wearing arm warmers. I put some embrocation on my legs before I left home. Just it's like a warming cream for those of you who are not familiar with it. And I knew it was going to warm up. It started close to 60 degrees, which I believe it might be like 12C, I'm thinking. 10C is 50. So probably 15C. Yeah, 15C, that's what it says on the screen. And so I knew it was going to warm up quickly. I didn't realize it was going to warm up as quickly as it did, because I end up overheating, and you guys will see that. So we're passing everybody here, and we're going to do a U-turn where the service road pretty much goes east and then takes us north. And it did not matter which direction we were going. The wind was just everywhere. It's this time of year we get fronts that are always fighting our Gulf air. So there's a lot of blustery conditions. And that's what we use down here for training. It makes you strong. kind of settling into some kind of a rhythm. You can see there are riders up the road. We're just holding our pace, and my attitude on this ride was whoever we come across, invite them to join the train and try to build a group. That was my plan. You can see the number flapping. That's what I was talking about. I was not aware of it while I was riding. I didn't feel it. No biggie. I'd much rather live with that than have pins in my shorts or whatever. No more pins for me. The double-sided tape works. Catching up to this group here. I did some edits here because we got almost 3 hours of footage, and although I'm trying to tell the story in its entirety, I cut out some of the mundane parts. You see all the riders lined up here, different skill levels. People got different gear on. Some people are kind of overdressed because it's going to warm up within an hour, and I see a lot of guys wearing tights. Get kind of hot on the bike. Doesn't take much. We're not really going fast yet. This is just zone 2. Turn right here, and it's an incline. Don't pay attention to that 0. Look at the camera. See, it says 1, but look at the camera. I stay out of the saddle here. See how long I stayed out of the saddle. This is something I work on. You have to work on that. You need to be able to do that so you're not fumbling around for gears all the time. Plus, it just gives you a different way to use your muscles. It's like you're stretching while you're riding. And the incline continues. It goes left here, and it may register, but I can feel it because I'm in a good size gear, like a 53, 23, I think. Yeah, I think I'm in a 23 there. A good shot there of the gear. And Paul is close, as you can see, because it's blustery and we're moving. You see this rider up ahead is a lady that we had talked with when we're picking up our packet. She has a Northwest Cycling Club jersey on. That was the ride we tried to do a couple of weeks ago. That had no ride leader or anything. They're a big club in the area. They support all kinds of riding, racing, and everything. So we go through here. You can see these guys at the intersections. They had this very organized. This is downtown Livingston, and so they have people at every corner to keep traffic off of us. I thought that was really cool. So you can see we're going downhill here. So I decided to cheat the wind. You can see my numbers in the air because it's windy. These kids are on the side there. I use the middle of the road there. I don't think they get to see us in their town that often, so they're wondering what these guys coming through here with bikes. Because in the city where we're headed downtown, the officers are at the intersection with their cars, pretty much regulating traffic. So we get to run red lights and all that good stuff. So we're catching up to this lady here. Just 25 kilometers an hour. This is uphill and windy. It's less than 1%, but it's rolling terrain. Go over the tracks here. I stand to take the weight off my bike and let it bounce. And we're pretty much on this lady. And I end up after the corner, I invite her to join the train, and she says something about this is an express train. I don't know if you'll get to hear it very well. Guys on the corner keeping traffic at bay for us. That is so cool. So when you do events like these, you get to pick your line. You can use the whole road. So right here, this corner, this guy's blocking traffic for us. He's got his vehicle there, waves us through. There's a kid on the corner. I greeted a kid. And this is where I invited her. I said, join the train. So she said, this is an express train, I can't get on it. And right here is one of the longest climbs I've done in a long time. It ends up being a 5-minute climb. I thought, wow. I didn't realize it at the time until I was doing the clips. I timed it. You can see we got, I think, 9:23 showing. It ends up being about 5 minutes. I said, wow, that's cool. We climbed this until 9:28. And we're just pulling back riders. It is early in the ride, so I'm trying to get some kind of a rhythm. And at this point, I'm beginning to get a bit warm. And I say warm, but I think it's probably more than that. You can see the riders up the road. Paul comes around me here. Paul has the camera. He keeps the camera, and he comes and takes the lead. And that gives me an opportunity to get out of the wind a little bit because we're going in a southern direction, but I think it's southeasterly. Yeah. So we're battling the wind. And you will see that as we roll, everybody's doing different things. This guy is pedaling okay. Some people are pedaling better than others, but you can spot the level of experience. This person here is riding at a good cadence. This guy over here is pretty much dying. And this takes the fun out of cycling on a hill. He needs to downshift. You know, and that's the reason we have the channel. A lot of people just don't know you got to use your gears, and then you end up just liking riding up a hill or into the wind. This guy's riding nicely. You know, he's turning the pedals nicely. The other guy in front could gear down a little bit. You know, but he's moving along okay. Use a little, just slightly shift down a little bit, make it more fun. The person in the blue here is barely getting around the circle, and it just makes it hard. You know, need to pedal a little faster in the lower gear. This guy's riding fine. That's how you ride your bike. This guy, he's a good example. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. Get a gear you can handle, and he's within himself. You can tell he's comfortable holding a straight line. That's what I talk about. Ride at your pace. So I get back to the front here to give my cinematographer a break. And I may look okay here, but my body's telling me we're hot. You know? And I'm thinking, okay, what do I need to take out first? That truck that passed making that noise. And all this time I'm thinking, you know, okay, is it still tolerable? I think I end up taking a drink soon because the arm almost won't be enough. I'm wearing a cap and I got my helmet on top of it, and I run hot normally anyway. My engine runs hot, so I'm still paying attention to how I feel. And if you notice, my cadence right around 80. This is the tempo that I do. I'll do this all day long. Find a gear that allows me to stay here, and I can do this all day long. And a lot of riders are worried about what speed they're doing. I think we're doing 10 or 12 miles an hour, whatever it is. But the bottom line is, I'm in zone 4. I reach for water here because my body's overheating. I'm not comfortable. My engine's like, you know, we're too hot. And I'm waiting for the incline to be leveled off a little bit so I can take off this cap. And as soon as the opportunity arises, you will see I go for it right here. I unclip the helmet. I yank the helmet off, and I forget my glasses on the back. Paul says, be careful, watch out, or something like that. And so I caught my glasses, it didn't fall. So I put my glasses on first, pull the hat off. Here Paul comes around me while I'm doing all of that. So I put my helmet back on. So my glasses ended up being under the straps of my helmet, which I don't like because it messes up my adjustment. So after I did that, I came back to the front because I didn't want Paul working hard right now. I figured we'd need him later. And now I'm beginning to feel like my old self again. My temperature immediately dropped. That cap on my head was just keeping all the heat in. And so you can see there's a rider up the road after we passed that other guy, and we're just pulling him back. Now this happened over a period of several minutes, so I edited it because you just had us riding on the open road. We didn't pull him back immediately. That was not the goal. We were just riding our pace, and our pace just brought us to him. You see it says 25 kilometers an hour. It continued to pull. We're going into the teeth of the wind the whole time here. And at this point, we're about 30 minutes into the ride. It says 9:35 up there. We're about 32 minutes or so into the ride. So it's enough of a warm-up that I'm feeling loose. So right here, Paul finishes the close, the catch. I invite this guy right there. I said, join the train. And he took us up on our invitation. So Paul slipped to the back. And we have 3 in the group now. It took us about 5 minutes to catch up to this guy. We weren't chasing him, just riding at our pace. And that's pretty much what was happening here as we begin to grow this group. Right here, this road begins to narrow. This lane becomes one. So I look back and then let everybody know we're going to go over. Those little ridges, I stood up for them because they put them there so that when cars are running off the road, if the driver isn't paying attention, that will wake you up. Your tires hit that, it wakes you up. And it's terrible for the bike to go over. That's why I stood up. So we see a rider up the road as we continue to ride, and I invite them again. I think that's 1 or 2. I think it's 2 guys. I tell them, join the train. Feel free to join the train, boys. And they took us up on that offer. At this point, I'm really enjoying the wind, although it slows us down a little bit. We're only doing 33, that's 34 kilometers an hour. But you hear that wind. We're headed into the south wind. We're going southeast. The shoulder ends here, so we get on this, I think it's a right turn lane. Yeah. Which afterwards becomes a shoulder again, and we pick up another rider. And each time I pass these riders, I tell them, feel free to join. You're welcome to join the train. Because there's no point fighting the wind alone, unless you just want to ride by yourself. But why join a Grand Fondo if you want to do that? This guy's a bit overdressed, and he could lose a few kilos as well. He needs to get out there, get some miles in. But he ends up getting in there too. And we found quite a few of the riders, I was talking to Paul about it, is a lot of the riders are not that trim, and then they come out to do a 70, a 67 mile ride or whatever. We have to be real careful about that because we've had in some of our events a lot of cardiac arrest. We've had people pass away at cycling events. What up for the Ironman? That's the guy, the first guy that joined us. I think he gives a thumbs up here when he sees the camera. It's on him. So you can see we got a nice group there. But what I was talking about is we had an Ironman event in the Woodlands last spring and somebody passed away. So I know we all die from something, but I think that a lot of riders or athletes or weekend warriors, whatever you want to call them, they try to do too much beyond what they've been preparing for. You know, don't just get up and go do a 50-mile ride if you've only been able to ride an hour a day. Okay, because you need to prepare your body over a period of time to do the ride. I've had people that ask for advice on how do I prepare for a century. Then they tell me they can only ride 1 hour a day. Well, how are you even going to do the event? Forget about preparing. If you only have an hour to allocate to cycling, then your goal should not be a century. Your goal should be maybe a 25-mile ride. You know, and I think that's why I wanted to just mention that. Let's be more realistic so you don't overstress your body. Because there's a tendency for riders just get off the couch and I'm going to go do a 50-mile ride. You know, pay that fee and get in there, and then you just overreach too much. So just remember that. If you prepare, it's safer and it's better, it's more fun. So I come back, I think this is where I come back to the front. Paul had been pulling for a while. I edited his pull because Paul and I ended up doing most of the pulls in this group because not that it really mattered to us. We're riding at our pace anyway. But a lot of the guys that were in the group were pretty much stretched. And so what I'm trying to point out is that's okay. Stay in the group because they stayed and they ended up staying with us till the rest time. You'll see what occurs because there's a lot of, we played around a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make is do not take a pull and then get dropped. Then you cause the group to slow down overall. There's no point to that. Sit in a draft properly, because then we can go faster and consistently and get there quicker. There's no point in you taking a pull if it's going to cause you to get dropped. That's not riding with your head. So that's important to every rider. I know guys have a tendency, the ego takes over and I got to show I'm not the turtle. Nobody cares. Get in a group. You're a better cyclist if you stay with the group because overall you work harder anyway than if you fall off the pace. If when you get dropped, you really slow down. You know, so don't resist the urge to take a pull that may cause you to get dropped because you know how you're feeling when you're back there. And then sometimes, put a caveat here. Sometimes you're sitting back there. It feels easy. It feels great because you're not in the wind. Don't let that get to your head. If you do get to the front and things start to get harder, pull off, get back in the draft. Listen to your body the entire time. Just like I was getting hot, I didn't ignore that. As soon as I could, I yanked that cap off. So here we're gonna be heading west. I turn, I look behind, I make sure everybody's together. I back off the power slightly. This is an incline here. I may not say that, but when we turned, it was an incline. And now the wind is coming from the left. But we can't use the whole road, so I'm just using this section of it. And people can just kind of sit in. So right around here somewhere, I heard a sound like tires rubbing. I heard rip. And I turned around. I asked if everybody's okay. And Paul asked them too. So basically somebody had hit their front wheel on Paul's rear wheel. And that's how closely these guys were drafting. And that was another reason Paul told me why he stayed at the front. He did not get behind there. He was not comfortable drafting those guys. They were riding a little bit above their heads, even though we're keeping the pace steady. And so I resumed riding. But after I heard that noise, because it sounded like you get two pieces of rubber there, that's what I heard. And I was like, wow, okay. So the good thing was nobody fell. So, and it doesn't take much. A little bit of inattention can cause that. And if you hit somebody's rear wheel with your front wheel, you're more likely to go down. You're not going to take them down if they're seated on their bike. You're going to go down, especially if you overreact. So if you just let the wheel bounce off, if the tires touch, like your front wheel touching somebody's rear wheel, it will bounce back. Just let it do what it wants to do. Don't overcorrect. Just let it do what it needs to do. It will come back to where it was. Kind of like when you hit a wall. The wall pushes you back. Same thing. People overcorrect. That's how you go down. So if you're relaxed and everything. So it worked out. It was a good thing. But he was telling me about it when we're driving home. And I was like, man, I'm glad nobody fell. So that's why you will see that he stayed near the front as much as possible. He said there were people touching his rear wheel, and it happened several times, at least 3 times. And so I was not aware of that. I only heard that one time. So I guess they had good bike handling skills. So the guy in the car that you see up there is with the ride. He's got his flashers on. And he's a cameraman, a photographer. We're not aware of it. But he pulls off on the side of the road here to take a picture of our train. Right there, you can see him. And I thought, that's cool. I hope we get a shot of that. Be a good picture to get the whole group like that. So it's kind of nice. The Spirit ride that we're doing here supports the Crime Stoppers organization in the area, where they pay for anonymous tips for crimes that have been committed. And this is something that's big. I don't know if it's nationwide. It probably is. But it's big in Texas. Most Texas cities have that. Reach for a drink over here. We're pretty much on this guy. You can see it says 40 kilometers an hour. I was not chasing him. If the terrain is favorable, the wind slacks off, I kept the power the same. You can see my heart rate is still in the 160s. That's zone 4. Bottom of zone 4 pretty much, for me anyway. So I'm in zone 4, but the guys following are working really hard because they're not at my level. And that's the key. That's why I don't pay too much attention to these numbers. You have to listen to your body. At this point, you can see we're pretty much Paul's letting the camera do what it needs to do. And he just has it on the handlebars because we're going hard. So he's close. You see the gear I'm in? That looks like probably a 16 or a 17. That's a good shot of it. Because I've got a 27 on this wheel. So that's probably a 16 or a 17. So this guy, the first guy we picked up, says he was going to take over. We're going downhill. And I think it felt easy for him because we're going downhill. But watch the speed drop. We're doing 40 kilometers an hour. It's still flat. And the speed's steadily going down. And you'll see another example of this later when we catch another group down the road. And the point I'm trying to make is, I personally don't care. It gave me a chance to, you see me, I reached for a bottle, I drank. And what I did here is, I did not shift at this point. You can see my cadence just dropping. So I'm basically resting. I'm just kind of rolling the gear. I'm in the same gear. So he has given me a break from the wind, but he has caused the speed to drop by 7 kilometers an hour. What that tells me is he shouldn't be pulling. He should be sitting in the back because no group wants to go slower than it possibly can. So I used the opportunity to check my light. Paul's behind me. I asked him if it's on. He said it was in his eyes, so I pushed the buttons to get it in the lower setting because it's getting a bit overcast. The sun never came out too much. So I just wanted, so the light's on now. From this angle, you can't appreciate it, but that light is very bright. So you see he's sitting there. We're doing 35 right now, and we were doing 40 when he came to the front, or 39. No big deal, but the concern is that going to enable him to return to the draft and be able to stay with us? And shortly after his pull, we didn't see him again. And I think it was because he was doing the blue route, which is the 44 mile route. I think that's what he was doing. And I think he knew he was close to where there is a turnoff where if you're doing the red, you get to do this same loop a second time. You get to do these hills again. And he was doing the blue, which does not have to do that. They go left. So at some point we lost him. and I'll point that out. But what was the point of him coming to the front to pull, knowing that? I think it was because probably he felt like, I want to help the group, which is good. And maybe since he was pulling off and is going to be riding alone, because he knew we were doing the red route. I told everybody, you know, join the train, we're doing the red route as we passed them. And they could tell by the band on your arm anyway. So right here, you see, I'm just staying in the wind so I don't overshoot him, because when you're following somebody and the road's going down slightly, you basically get sucked into them. And I don't want to use my brakes. That's why you see me on the right. And I'm spinning to keep my heart rate or my effort in the same zone. I don't want it to go down too much. And my heartbeat has dropped about 9 or 10 beats from where it was when I was pulling. So here I'm just using my position to stay with him. We're going downhill into a curve. You can see 50K. And in these rollers, yeah, you go fast 1 minute and then immediately you hit something. You see, this is going up. And I spot another rider up the road, 1%. So right here, he starts to slow down. I just maintained the same effort. He slowed down and he slipped back into the group. So it was good that he came to the front, but I was thinking that to use that as a teaching moment. It's cool if you can go to the front and still go back and stay with the group. Because yes, I think it's good. Everybody should help the group and everybody should get used to pulling into the wind. But only do that if you can handle it. Don't feel obligated. You are not obligated to pull. You are obligated to not slow the group down by pulling and getting dropped. I just made that up. There is no rule, but I think that it just makes sense. Why slow your mates down when all you have to do is draft? Because that's the benefit of drafting. It enables riders of different levels, within reason, to be able to ride together. Look at the socks here. I love the way they look here. The camera gives it a lighter orange than it is in real life, because it's more of a reddish orange. But the kit really works with his socks. So good job, Paul. Good choice there. I was a bit on the fence when we got those socks, but he convinced me. You know, when he came out with it on the ride with Frankie, it just looked the business. Because you're never really sure, you know. I like stuff to look right. I don't like it to be in your face too much. I don't like it to be too mundane, but not bling bling too much. I'm not into that. I'm into classic style. I like this bike because it has a horizontal tube and it just looks like the bicycles I grew up riding. That's one of my reasons I really love this orange bike. It's made by Jim Kish, K-I-S-H, Kish Manufacturing. You need a titanium bike? That's the guy. Very personable fellow, very detailed. I put that bike together like a Lego, no problems. One afternoon, 2 hours, it was ready. The guy had everything done, machined, the threads, everything was perfect. My blue bike, on the other hand, I had to take it to the shop to get the threads chased because there was paint in them and whatsoever. So everybody's different. Every build is different. So right here, it starts to go up. So I shifted the small chain ring immediately, and I'm thinking about keeping my legs fresh. Front. This is the guy that we picked up that I started to talk about, Collusive Kilos. So I stand up, get on his wheel, and I'm not sure why he came up here, because I could tell he wouldn't be able to last from his cadence, and his body's rocking. Look at his torso. He's rocking left and right, trying to find power. But I think because I downshifted, he thought maybe I needed some help, or, you know, the guys do that. And then you see, we're not done, and he pulls off to the left. And so I just resumed my same effort. And that's cool. It wasn't a problem. He didn't interfere. So if you make a move like that and you get dropped, smack yourself when you get home. Because you should have saved that little energy to stay with the group. He didn't get dropped here, which is fine. And that's the key I'm trying to point out. Because you are better off staying in the draft for 50 miles than getting dropped in 10 miles and and riding 40 by yourself. The group will push you more. You will work harder, cover more ground, drafting, plus you improve your skills, and you get to socialize. Who wouldn't want that? You get to hang out with your mates. So remember that. When you start feeling good, yeah, get to the front, but don't pull too long. Pull a little bit, go back in the back, rest, listen to how you feel, eat, drink, so you have something left to pull again. That's the key. I sit at the front as much as I do because I can at this effort. If I were riding with Pro 123 riders, the guy that rides on the bike barns on Sunday, I don't pull like this. For what? We got plenty of guys I can pull. I take 30-second, 1-minute pulls. I get off, get back in the back. You know, not that I couldn't pull longer, but why? These guys are used to doing 75, 80 miles in their zone 4, zone 5. What am I trying to prove? When I ride with them, I want to last. I don't want to end up riding alone. So I sit my butt in there and I don't pull any longer than they do. I actually pull less because I don't ride with them that much. I don't know who's strong and who's not. So I'm still learning when I'm with them. So I don't pull like this. That's the key. So if you're riding with riders that are not as strong, yeah, pull longer and keep the group together. That's why I'm doing this. I want to keep the group together because I'm pulling 31. Even when I get to 40K, I'm not accelerating to 40K like instantly, like you know, jumps. That's what breaks people. These are not jumps. These are steady accelerations. You know, 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers at a time, something like that. Just steady. That allows people to hang on. So this is a different kind of riding. This is like cruising as opposed to interval attacks. You got to be able to do both if that's what the kind of riding you do. And when I train, I do both because I want to be able to adapt. But when you're on a long ride, once you get up to speed, you hold it. But you can't just teach your body to only get up to speed slowly. So every now and then, jump for that stop sign. You know, jump for that corner. Jump away from a dog that's trying to run after you. We do that as fun. And I usually put my arms out like I want to race to tease the dog when he's far away from me anyway, of course. So I'm just stating that to let you know that don't do one style of riding. Just like I talk about, don't pedal one cadence range. Don't do one style of riding. Every now and then, spice it up a little bit. Drop the cadence and do a burst of speed so you teach your body to react to quick changes in speed. That's important. Then when you get out there, you knowing psychologically and physically you can handle anything, you relax. You don't worry about it. Even if somebody attacks and you can't immediately get on their wheel, you know that if you wanted to follow them, you can. And so you take your time and draw them back in. And we'll show you that later on here in this ride. I just don't want people watching this video to think that all our rides, we only just ride steady. And the fun thing about here is we got to play on the hills and so forth. So do everything. Do whatever you know of and whatever you feel that you're weak on. I mean, I like the hills because that used to be my weakness. And plus, right now, they just give you a quick workout when you press for time. It's a strong workout. So here in this shot, the socks, the color look more realistic. You see they're more reddish, like the back of the jersey, instead of an orangey on the other view. So this is the split I was talking about. This is where we lost the guy in the blue. He turned left. I didn't know. And we turned right. This gentleman blocked the corner. He told us. So we get to do a second loop of what we just did, since we're doing the 67. So I'm telling the guys, I told Paul to let the guys come forward so we can get more of them on camera, because I have been pulling, it seemed like 40 minutes or something. I don't remember how long. Yeah, I was just about to say it may say 1%, because if I'm standing, it's not 1%, unless I was just loosening up. It's a nice climb. And the thing about climbs, you're watching the overlay. When you're on a climb, it's gonna go 1%, 2%, 3%, then go to 0, then go. It doesn't mean the climb's over. It's just the gradient has peaks and valleys. You're still climbing. The total elevation gain on this ride, I think, was 400 and something meters or something. For us, that's good climbing for our area. I'm staying on the edge here because the wind's coming from the right, so that they can use the road and still get a little bit of shelter somewhere. The thing is, here I continue to ask them to tell Paul to drift back and let them come forward. That's the other route. I think that's a 35-mile route people you see going. They go and they go straight from where we turn. So they go against the grain here. The loops meet. So this guy comes to the front. They finally decided to come through. I've been egging them on to come forward. That was the guy who had pulled to the front. I'm waving this guy up. Then he says, yeah, you finally, after pulling hard, now you want us to come to the front. And I told him we're just riding. And we laughed. So most of the people we passed joined the group. I'm waving them forward so you guys can get a chance to at least get a shot of who's in the group. And this is one of the guys that you see in the epilogue. He comes and he chats with us for a while after the ride. The guy on the left. Looks like he's sitting a little low from just me looking. So Paul and I are back here now. And we're rolling down this hill with him. See, my heart rate has dropped significantly. It's back into zone 1, at the top of zone 1. And then we start this climb here. And I'm in a big gear on purpose. I want to make my legs hurt. And I'm basically standing. This is something you need to practice because it's good to do this. This will keep your heart rate under control. You use more strength, but you have to build up your tolerance for it. You can see the guy on the green tried and he's sitting, and I continue to kick up. And you want to keep your cadence low because you can't spin as much in that position. And you shouldn't try to. You don't want your heart rate to go too crazy. Just find a rhythm. I'm in a gear that if I need to go faster, I can. But we're keeping it steady to keep everybody together. It's a decent climb. It says 0, but it's not. The terrain levels off a little bit here as I was talking about these climbs. We're still climbing. It's maybe not quite a 1% or whatever, but we're still on this climb. If you look down the road, you can see how it's going to roll up a little bit. Right here, it starts to roll up. And he accelerates a little bit. And you can see I'm in the same gear. I just turn it faster. So he's been pulling for a good chunk of time. I edited his pull because we're just riding. And once I sensed that he was slowing down a little bit, you know, I kind of rolled past him here, tapped him, gave him thumbs up, and then I rolled to the front. Paul came along with me, so he could get a bit of a break there. Settled in a bit of a rhythm. We're going directly into the east wind. That's the strongest direction of wind that we're getting, even though it's blustery. So we have grade and wind, and all I'm trying to do is stay in the same range of effort to keep this group together. We're gonna hit the next rest stop coming up, and so I asked them shortly here. I cut my poll, I edited. So here I'm asking them, letting them know we're gonna stop. There's the rest stop. This is almost at the halfway point. 46 kilometers. So we're close to about 30 miles. So we'll go ahead and stop here. And some of the guys did not stop that were riding with us. They continued. And we met this industrious little kid that offered to hold my bike. I felt like a movie star. I was like, cool.
Okay.
He turned out to be a very, very smart kid, and he's really into gadgets and all that kind of stuff. He was really interested in the camera
Thank you very much.
and the removal and all that. But you can see some of the guys here, like the guy in the blue on the left, he's panning around. This guy was the guy with the green jacket. He's taking off his jacket. It's warmed up. This guy with the blue rode with us. We picked him up on the road. He was the one doing that pulling that I tapped on the back. Some of the other guys are up the road. They did not stop here. They kept going. And so they're ahead of us now. This is the little kid that's holding both of our bikes. I was checking my cleat or something. It felt weird.
Different shoe, same problem.
I don't know what the deal is. I had the same problem a little
I
while.
like the Shimano balls because they're very robust.
But what ended up happening at this stop is that this thing with the drinks, the Gatorade was very, very
You guys having fun?
light. Whoever mixed the powder did a very weak job. It didn't taste like Gatorade.
That's my
Let me
favorite color,
hold
Morocco.
my. Okay. Here we go.
You got it.
I got it.
Yeah.
I'll lay it again something. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, this kid's asking us about the GoPro. He was really into that stuff. Paul's putting his bike over here, leaning against this pole. The kid continued to hold my bike, so I'm not gonna argue with that. But what I was saying is, don't depend on these rides. 2 rides now we've done. The Gatorade has been weak. Didn't taste like Gatorade. It's only as good as the person mixing. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So the good thing was it was a cool day. I didn't need to drink that much because the water didn't taste that good. The Gatorade didn't taste like Gatorade. It tasted like lightly flavored water. So, go figure. But we ended up spending about 10 minutes here. We stocked up, we got water, and then we rolled. And so the guys, some of the guys that we rode with took off. So we ended up after this being alone, just Paul and I. After the
I
stop.
got just banana so far. And yeah.
So we're filling up here.
They got all kinds of good stuff. Bananas, oranges. Okay.
I did not drink the Gatorade there. I'm finishing my drink from my bottle before I fill it up there. I did not drink their stuff, so I didn't taste it before I put it in the bottle. Next time I'll make a note to. See, these 2 guys, I highlighted them. They weren't riding with us, but they ended up being 2 guys that we end up chasing down after this stop towards the end of the ride. We see them out there and we chase them down. And we ended up finishing the ride with those 2 guys.
Let's see. We got
30. We need 30 more.
30 more. Yeah, 30 more.
The lady asked how many miles we got left. We told her about 30. Because we're doing about, it ends up being like 63 or 64 miles. See the flag? That's the east wind blowing this flag.
I have a recliner bike.
She's telling me that she works out on a reclining bicycle in the house.
And I get up.
I kind of like talking to people about working out.
And I.
Yeah, you don't have to deal with traffic. Yeah.
Water.
From this area.
Yeah. It's on.
Okay. Let's check the battery in a little bit. So
Okay.
we can swap it because I've got a fresh battery. So I don't have to.
So the battery was low because we ran the the camera, the
I'm gonna get some
entire
mutants and stuff.
part of the
Did you get
up
getaway?
to this stop, it just ran the whole time. Normally we stop
Okay.
it.
We can make more if y'all need more.
No, I just need to fill this one.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
picking up my heart rate. That's about what I said. 120, that's about right. It's picking up my heart rate.
So I'm gonna start taking my own mixtures in
Dan?
powder form on future rides that we do.
Okay.
So I can mix my own electrolyte at these stops. I can just use water and mix my own. Because so far, I'm not impressed with their mixture that they're doing. Because they get it in powder form. And if the concentration is not right, it doesn't taste right. And you don't get the
That's water,
nutrition you need from it, or the energy, I should say,
Gatorade?
from the Gatorade. If it's not mixed right, might as well drink
Okay,
water.
I need a getaway.
So it wasn't a problem because I had my gel and other things, but still, you can't count on that. That's all. Just make a note of that. When I'm riding hard, I don't do well with solids.
Okay,
so I
thank
do
you.
the gel and I do the
Thank you very
electrolyte.
much.
No problem.
It's a good rest stop, though. They were our recommended rest stops. You got the vote on the rest stops. We chose this one. It was real good. Got valet service. Kid holding my bike for me. That's cool.
Let me see the battery on this thing.
You still have plenty there.
No, sir. Look at that. You see
Oh.
that? Yeah, the battery for the camera.
I was looking at
The
that.
removal. Yeah, we'll turn this off.
This one.
So after doing another loop,
Have a place to have a flat.
we spot a guy here by the side of the road. He was with 3 guys and they're up the hill. He stopped. And we found out later after the ride was over, he ate with us. And he said that he thought his arm warmer had fallen into his gears. He lost an arm warmer. We saw it on the road. And right there, those are his buddies. So Paul asked him if he was okay. And we rolled on. But those 2 guys up ahead that we showed you are the 2 guys in white that I highlighted that he was riding with. So the guy who lost the arm warmer, he lives in the area, so he ended up going back and getting them after we ate.
We're in Livingston, Texas, boys. And this is some climbing. 5.5. Far back.
At this point in the ride, we're not really chasing those guys at this point.
Check out the lake, man. Forget that hill. Look at the lake. It's the Trinity River.
I'm more interested in the
Trinity
sights.
River, boys. I hope the camera does it justice.
Yeah, the Trinity River is beautiful. It's just I couldn't really get a good shot of it. So that's what I was thinking about at this moment. So I give Paul the camera here. And we're just kind of rolling along. We had to do 2 loops because we're on the big ride. We're on a 67-mile ride. So we did a second loop and we finished that, and now we're on the final stretch. And you can see it says 76 kilometers. So we probably got about 20 or 25 kilometers left. I'm thinking, let's see, we end up with, we do about 100K. So 25 there, about 25 kilometers. You saw me spray the water out. The water didn't taste that good. The Gatorade didn't taste good because it just wasn't mixed well. It was just weak. And, just nothing. So I kept pouring them out. There's no point in me carrying them around if I'm not going to be drinking. It's a cool day. 19C, I think, is about, let's see what's the Fahrenheit. 66 Fahrenheit. So right about here, we spot these guys in this corner here. There's 2 guys that was with that guy that was sitting by the hill, the guys in white that I showed you. And By seeing them in this curve, I realized they're maybe 30 seconds ahead of us, and I know I can catch them. Because on the second loop, we're really just goofing off. We did not ride that hard. So for us to be able to catch up to them and see them, because they left the rest stop before we did. At that time, I was not even aware that they had been at the rest stop. Paul was the one that mentioned they were at the rest stop. Right there, we see them turn left, so we know they're doing the same course that we are, which is the red route. See the arrows on the road, so we're turning too. Look, there's no cars. I want to cheat on the corner here and take an aggressive line, so I move over and lean in on the opposite side of the road. This is the Livingston State Park that we're going into. And I'm feeling good. You can see how I'm bouncing all over my bike. I'm like a big kid here. I tell Paul, it's on. So you can see he's in the draft. You see, you can only see my bars right there because the wind's coming from our right. The wind is coming from the east, and right now we're headed somewhat northwesterly, I would say. More north than west. Yeah, it says, you can look at the course, it says 1 degree. So the wind is from the right. You see where I'm riding. I'm on the edge of the pavement so Paul can have all the room he needs. Because it's on. This is zone 4. Middle of zone 4. We're working. And the guys are right up the road. You can see them there. And so what I start to do here now is, instead of just spinning my tail off and going nowhere, I start to use larger gears. Because now it's time for strength, maintaining a powerful cadence, cruising. That's what this is about. So I'm at 32 kilometers an hour. Just watch the speeds change. I edited the catch here because we caught them over a period of a few minutes. You see now I'm at 34. And look at my heart rate, 168, 169, I'm at 34. It's not going to go up much more than 4 to 5 beats, but my speed will go up significantly. Because in order to get more speed, it takes a higher proportion of effort to squeeze out more speed. So by using my gears wisely and using my strength and not just my aerobic capacity or my aerobic system, I was able to catch these guys without overextending myself. So I steadily increased the speed because that helped also Paul, who's drafting and filming, to not have to react to aggressive bursts of speed. See, now we're at 37K. And if you just keep your eyes on those guys, they're getting closer. And I grabbed the bit by the mouth right here. It's like, I see the rabbit, and it's on. And the wind is blowing. The wind is always there, so I don't worry about it. You see, I'm 40K. I've gradually allowed the speed to come. Look at my heart rate. We've gone up 5 kilometers an hour in maybe 2 or 3 beats. 41. It says -1, so yeah, this must be a slight downhill. Then I see that climb up there, because the camera makes it look further than it is. They're about 10 to 15 seconds ahead at this point. We're reeling them in. And I know the road's going to go up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I keep my cadence high. I don't want to overtax my legs. So now my heart rate comes down, even though we're on a slight incline here. 1% it says. You have to learn to dose out your effort. So my heart rate's going down and we're catching them. I wanted to stress that. These guys were not going slow. They were doing probably 33, 34 for the most part. So I had to do 40 to close it. And I'm not sure why they slowed down so drastically, but we found out later that the guy behind him was the weaker of the two. And it looked like he was at his limit. And right here, the catch is pretty much completed. So at this point, you want to make sure you stay within yourself, stay smooth. Because a lot of times when you catch somebody, you don't get to sit in too long because they want you to help. And at this point, I already know they're going at a decent pace because I had to go into the middle of zone 4 to catch them. So I know that, okay, it's a good pace. But pretty much the catch is over. I roll up to the back of them and I announce our arrival, which is what you want to find a way. You want them to know you're there. They need to know you're on their wheel. And for some reason, I chose to just tell them, you have company, gentlemen. That's what I said. You have company. Then right about here, and only this guy heard me. I told him, you have company. That's the person that needs to hear me because I'm on his wheel. And at this point, my cadence comes down. I'm in their draft. My heart rate's going to continue to go down. That must be the Gatorade I'm grabbing there because I always put the mixture on the cage that's upright. It tasted like crap. I'm letting them know it's clear because we need to go around these riders that we caught up to. And then the guy in the front now knows they have company. Because this guy knew. And I'm in the draft, just soft pedaling. I did not change my gearing. I'm waving this car around. We're in the Livingston State Park, so it's not that busy, but there are a few cars. And this guy has looked behind. The guy at the front has looked behind. Then I noticed that he's a natural bull leg guy. He looks like he's fitted very well. He sits a bit high in the torso, but you know, he catches more wind. If you look at my body as I go by the guy on the left, look at my profile on the bike and look at him. There is no reason why he couldn't go lower. He could take out some of those spacers unless it's a comfort issue. But he sits up kind of high. Even this small guy is up a bit. A lot of riders sit like that. But not everybody can tolerate a low position. So they look like they have decent fits. The guy at the front is rolling. But what I noticed that the guy at the front, when he would pull, the speeds would go down. And I think he stayed there a little longer than he should have. A lot of times he ended up falling off the pace. You will see later. So I'm stretching here, just kind of rolling my gear. So I've fully recovered from the chase. And a lot of times when you're riding long and you chase back, you want to eat, drink, whatever, depending on how you feel. I mean, I'm feeling good. I've been using gels the whole ride. And we've been riding about 3 hours now. That's our normal time on the bike every Saturday, so nothing's new. We rode a little harder today than we usually ride by ourselves, and that's why you do these rides. I ended up spending almost an hour in zone 4 when I was looking at my stats later. That's why you do the rides. That's why you do the group rides, so you don't have to think about pushing yourself. Situations push you. This guy looks around, he pulls off the front, he's trying to pull off, and I'm trying to let him know which side to go on. I think here he goes left. The wind's coming from the right. Ideally, he should have gone right so that he can give us shelter as we come by. But he went left because his friend had gone left. So the wind's coming from the right. Mostly you go right. When you pull off, always pull off into the wind. So he didn't do it right there, but that's fine. His buddy ends up doing a lot of chatter in the back, and he's talking about cars that are coming, and the car is 250 meters back and all that. I don't care about all that. Car back is enough. I don't need to know how far back they are. We're just rolling here. So he did a bit of just some of his stuff was so loud he was startling us when he'd say car back. So, but everybody does it differently. It's fine. So I'm trying to settle into a groove here. He felt the need to say clear after a car had passed, that it was clear behind. But I didn't think it was necessary because nobody's moving or nobody's about to go, but that's fine. I'll take the warning even if it's out of place. So I'm sure he had a reason why he was doing that. Everybody has a different way to do things. I guess it's okay to know that it's clear back, especially if you're pulling off. But on this ride, ideally you want to pull off where I am. I would just wiggle my elbow and people will come to the outside of me, and I would stay where I am so they continue to get shelter because the wind's on the right. So you want to pull off to the right. So when I'm done, I would stay where I am, and the riders coming up would come on my left. You'll see it happen. So we turn right here. This intersection coming up, there's a bit of it looks like a Y or something, like a T intersection. It's controlled. We have marshals there. So we turn left. And you hear the wind. I mean, it was just, the whole day was out here. I don't even know how we got to 40 kilometers an hour back there to catch these guys. But I had to work. So right here, the wind is still mostly from the right, which is east. We're headed northeasterly now, so we got our nose more into the wind here, and you can see our speed. So I wave Paul over, and I tell him to take a short pull.
Just do a short one.
Do a short one. So I take over the camera. Went ahead and did some editing here too, just to kind of move things along, because Paul was up there for a while. Even though I said take a short pull, he was feeling good and he was there for a while. So this is an echelon. This is what the Belgians and the guys in the Netherlands are probably doing their sleep. There's enough wind down here, we might as well be in the Belgians area, maybe the Ardennes. This time of year. So we may not have very long climbs, but we got wind. And they will make you tough. I'm trying to get this guy's gearing on screen here, so I pulled into the wind to get a different shot. So yes, I'm not in the draft properly. I'm just messing around with the camera. I'm feeling good. I figure I just sit at the back, and that's another thing you can do. If you feel, I was trying to tell Paul to pull off of the right, but he pulled off to the left because everybody else had been doing it. So then I told him here, let me just slip by you so you're not working too hard, because he had just pulled off, and we're messing around here with the camera. I gave him the camera. Ideally, you don't want this kind of gap. This is about a car length or so. You don't want that opening, but I'm not that concerned about it. I know I can handle the pace. I mean, you see it says 40 kilometers an hour. This is a slight downhill. So I had to do 40K to get back up to these guys. They're going at a decent clip. But we're messing with the camera and trying to decide which side is best to draft because the wind's all over the place. And at some point you can see me point to Paul to say I think it's over here or something like that, because I want him sheltered, because I had looked at the course, and on the last stretch we got a few climbs before we finished the ride. So this part of it is fairly flat to rolling, but we get on a busy road and there's some nice inclines. So you'll see me sit to the left a little bit, then go to the right. Well, the wind is shifting. There's a rider on the right here, so I let Paul know. The wind is shifting. There are times when the draft seems to be on the right of the rider or on the left of the rider, and you just always have to be looking for that. Yeah, I'm telling Paul, I think it's right here. Because it's just like somebody's out there blowing wind around us. So he stays there for a while, and then he goes, he says, I don't think it's there. So you see he moved over a little bit, now he's back. It was really wild. It was all over the place. So that guy up there, I don't know what he was doing. I was like, what is he doing? He pulls off the front. Yeah, that's what I said. What is he doing? He pulls off the front, and then he accelerates while pulling off, which leaves his buddy in the wind. This ended up zapping the energy of his buddy, because his buddy, watch the speed here. The speed continues to drop. His buddy should have just pulled off the front as well. But I don't know why he did that. He kept forcing the pace. You're not going to drop us. We just caught you. Unless we overextended ourselves, you're not dropping us. So he ended up just wearing out his own friend, because what ends up happening here, we didn't get it on film, but I had to ask Paul. What ended up happening, this guy's pulling, you see the speed down to 31. And when his friend was there, it was like 35 plus. So at this point, this is something we all want to learn. Get off the front. There's no point sitting there and going slower. Get off the front. Let somebody else come. We're in the wind. You don't have to take very long pulls. Get off the front. Let someone else come and take the pull. He ends up sitting up here very long. When he pulls off and I take over, he gets dropped. So his friend has to stay back with him. See, now he did it right. He pulled off to the right into the wind. That's how you do it. You pull off into the wind, so we still get shelter as we come by. So I guess he saw me pull off to the right, and he heard me tell Paul to pull off to the right when Paul pulled off. So now he's got it. And there's nothing wrong with telling each other, because the wind shifts all the time. And sometimes when you're at the front, it's hard to tell really where the draft is. You can tell where the draft is when you're actually trying to get in the draft. So the riders behind the lead rider are the best placed to say, yeah, this is where the draft is. If that makes sense. I hope it does. So I get to the front and I gradually brought the speed back up to around, you see around there it says 34, which is what we were doing before. This is where they were riding. And I just brought it back to that range. Conditions have not changed. At this point, I found out that we were alone, because he had the guy that just pulled up had fallen off the pace, and his friend had stayed with him. So they're probably about 5 to 10 seconds behind us. And then we end up here somewhere. Let's see, I think it's around here. We make a snafu where, yeah, this is where I'm asking Paul. I look behind, I don't see. I said, we're alone. And I think we need to turn here, and we're not 100% sure. I'm not sure if there was something in the road that misled us, like the arrows from an old event or something. But right here, I thought we needed to turn left. We slow down. That's where that car came from. Yeah. We're not sure, so we turn in here to find out from those two guys, because they're about 10 seconds behind us. So that's Paul with the camera in here. I stayed on the road. And then the guy said we need to go straight. So they were about 7 to 10 seconds behind us after my pull. And I believe the other guy stayed with his buddy. I think his buddy fell off the pace. So Paul's here with the camera, and he's coming. And what I did was I edited his ride up to me. But he basically gets by. Paul does not care for stopping and then going and all of that. But you know, we got to get used to all of that. He said that he didn't like it. He didn't like the change, you know, to stop the tempo. Once he gets going, he wants to keep going. You know, and people have some people have engines like that. And once they get it up to speed, they don't want to slow it down. I'm the same way. I like to keep my heart rate up. Once it gets up, I want to keep it there if we're going to keep riding there.
I hate that.
So he tells me here
I hate that.
he hated it.
The break in momentum.
He said he hates the break in the momentum. Yeah, it's not the most efficient way to ride. So the guys are up there. They're probably about 15 seconds up, which is not much. We've got about 7 miles, 10 kilometers left. So I gradually start to pull them back in again. back, caught up to them again. I kept it kind of steady. You know, there's no reason to rush. I wasn't worried about. We're just riding our pace. Once we catch up to them, we realize they're going slower than we want to go. So about here, I decide to go ahead and pass on the right. It's a busy road. The shoulder's okay. He's in the middle of it. So I roll on his right. Paul comes along with me. Because he's going slower and slower. So we're going directly into the wind here. And this is an incline. So at this point here, I believe Paul is leading and I'm on Paul's right. The other guy's on the left. So we sandwich Paul. I'm on the right. He kicks up. I moved up, got on his wheel just to see what kind of pace he was doing. It's a good climb. He's keeping a high cadence and I'm just kind of rolling my gear. Everybody pedals differently. He's using more of his aerobic capacity. But I'm in a gear that I can toy with. I'm on the big chain ring. I'm probably in the 19 or the 17, probably the 19. So he pulls off and I pressed it here. I wasn't intending to drop them, but Paul says that this move broke us up. Basically, we put a gap on him right here. And Paul's on my wheel. And this is why you have to always save your energy. You never know. That incline wasn't that much, but he went kind of fast and hard. And so when I continued, he couldn't keep up. So right here is just Paul and I. They're behind us. And then shortly after that, we come across the crappiest highway I've seen in a long time. I think Simon Moses would be proud to see this because he said to show him some crappy roads. So right here is okay. And then right about here starts getting bad. I mean, look at it. We're bouncing.
Even the gimbal having trouble.
So Paul gave me the camera, and I basically suspended the camera off the bars. I didn't even want to put it on the bars. The pavement is rough with little holes to where they feel like tiny cobblestones. So I put it in a big gear, so did Paul. Put it in a big gear, so did Paul. So we just backed off the power, and that allowed those guys that we had ridden away from the catch up right here. So they're back. Look at the pavement. Even the main lanes were bad. I rode out there, it didn't feel any better. And it's a busy road, so I'd much rather. They got a wide shoulder. It's just, look at this. It's not usable. Those things are like little ridges, like a washboard. I'm like, wow. I even talked to one of the people at the event and said, you know, are they going to pave that road? She said no. And I'm in the main lane and I'm getting rattled. It was at the point where my hands were itching from the rattling. Now I see why those boys in Paris would be ride the dirt. I even mentioned that to Paul. So I edited it, and right about here, the pavement smooths out. But we had to do that for at least 5 miles. Felt longer. Probably 3 to 5 miles of crappy pavement. So this is the end of the ride here. We're pretty much rolling back into the venue at Livingston High School. Overall, it's a very good event. I would simply change that last area there, but I don't know if they have the choice. So hopefully, before we do we'll come back to do this next time. This is our first time here. Maybe they'll pave the road. Because the portions of it, this is nice and smooth here. They just need to do the same thing for 2 or 3 miles and we'll be good. Just made the ending seem longer. And you know, I was still rattling even after we got here on this smooth road. My body was still shaking. Yeah. So right here, that guy started sprinting up there, so I just closed the gap here. The ride's pretty much over, so I start to spin a moderate gear to kind of loosen my legs up because we're going to be sitting in that truck for an hour. So we really didn't get a chance to do a complete warm down. But Paul and I went out on Sunday and rode for 3 hours, just spinning easy gears. So that helped us recover. So this is what we did on Saturday, guys. I hope you got a chance to get out there. Stay tuned for the epilogue.
For a main road,
Man,
that was a piece of junk.
man.
The main lanes were rough too. I was riding on the main road, didn't feel much different.
Yeah, the main road was.
Yeah, it was still rough, yeah. It's 102 kilometers.
That was
That's what I had.
crazy.
I was like, man. Something spilled on your bike.
Yeah, that's this.
Cheap Gatorade?
Yep. Didn't even drink it.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. It was too weak. I don't know who mixed it, but that's not Gatorade.
Enjoy drafting with y'all.
Oh, okay.
Enjoyed it.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Well, that's too rough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, coming back, that's a terrible, it's a major rub. And even the main lanes weren't much better.
Terrible.
My
Yeah.
goodness,
I mean,
it kind of
just slowed
ruins the
down,
ride.
Low gear and just crawl and do it.
Yeah, well, you know, you want to use a big gear and drop your cadence.
I thought
Like riding on cobblestone.
Man, I thought my carbon fiber was gonna come apart.
My hands were itching.
Oh, my bad.
Man. Yeah, what you do on a rough road is you put in a big gear and you slow your cadence. But still, I just unloaded the bike because, man, it just shakes you. That's why those guys, when they ride in Paris, they ride in the dirt.
Yeah.
That's why they ride in the dirt. It's uncomfortable. You're shaking. My hands started itching. It's just from that.
Yeah.
I was like, man. Yeah, the water didn't taste that good.
Yeah.
Thanks for the pull.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
We're riding with you.
Yeah, man, yeah. Thanks, brother. Thanks for the pull. Y'all take care.
All right,
Okay,
you
you
too,
too,
man.
man.
We'll get something to eat. Let's see what they have to eat.
You got it, man?
I think one of them's supposed to go over.
Yeah, he has to go over. Like
Oh,
this way.
I got it the wrong way.
Yeah, get it over the top.
Okay. Like this.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Don't forget to take off your.
Yeah, bow. I have the computer already. That's the first thing. First thing.
Yeah. We did, let's see. 102 kilometers. This is a good ride, man. I spent 49 minutes in zone 4. That's good. Good work.
Yeah, you were doing work, man. You were doing work. Yeah. See those boys? Felt the respect.
That guy came, he must have been in the first group.
Yeah, he
The
was-
guy that just
that's the
came?
one that told you that he didn't stop. He continued.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.